Welcome to JasonWhiskyWise. My name is Jason. Welcome to this whiskey review where today, here on the channel, we're going to continue our series into the Lakes Whiskies. And today we're going to be reviewing the Lakes, the One, Sherry Cask Finish. Now, this is a blended whiskey from the Lakes Distillery. And if you don't know about the One series, I'm actually going to leave a playlist here in the top corner. Some of the other reviews, I reviewed some of the single malts, and now I'm reviewing the blends. Now, the One series is actually where the Lakes Distillery, the Whiskymaker, Double Gandhi, goes and actually blends some of the Lakes single malts along with Scottish malts and grains and produces these certain blends. And this one is Sherry Cask Finish. So I'm very interested, because this is called Sherry Cask the One, to see how this one plays out. Now, in terms of this whiskey, it was from 2020, I believe. Let me just double check that again. Yeah, so this was from the 7th of 2020, so I believe it was July 2020. So this is from last year's batch, but I think you still see this in shops quite regularly available on this one. In terms of my review style structure, this is a no age statement whiskey. The ABV on this one is 46.6% ABV. In terms of the cask maturation, this is matured in European oak, Oloroso and PX. So quite a nice combination. And in terms of the actual price point on a full-size bottle, this comes in about £48, which is blocking Mr. Banana. So about £48 here in the UK. Now, in terms of exclusivity, this one is exclusive. It's limited to about 4,500 bottles. I think off the top of my head, I think it's 4,512 bottles. About that. So it's about that. If I'm not 100%, I'll leave it on the screen. But I think it's about that to what I remember reading from this whiskey. Now, in terms of this whiskey, it is natural colour and non-chill filtered, and it does have a lovely dark hue to it from these Oloroso and PX casks. So again, something very interesting to try on this whiskey. So without further ado, me and Mr. Bananas are excited because this is one, as you can see the sample over here, it has taken a bit of a beating because we actually tried this the first time last year when I was sent this sample, and I went back to it again and again. And I was really just, again, it was something that you could go back to quite easily. And so we're going to see what we have on the nose of this whiskey. So into the nose. So to start things on the nose for the Lakes, the One Sherry Cask, for me on the nose of this whiskey, it's got so much going on, a lot of complexity. But the one thing I can point this towards, not an apple crumble, a red berry crumble. For me, this has got a nice lovely base, and to deconstruct this one, it's got strawberries and almost like strawberry syrup, cherries, raspberries, and then it develops into these darker berry fruits. So again, black currants, blackberries, and it's like you've taken all these different berries, you've thrown them into a pan, and now you're starting to almost let them stew in their own juices as they're starting to release these characters. And you've taken a massive scoop of muscovado brown sugar, thrown it in there, and you're caramelizing all these characters. And you're going to smell this whiff of sweetness. And then you've got this little bit of a buttery sort of crumble on the top of this one, as if you're making this and you're just sort of layering it on top. Behind that, again, you've just taken pear, and this is an overly ripe pear, so not a fresh pear, so it's not, quite holding its structure. This is like a pear, like a conference pear, that's a bit soft, and it's kind of towards the end of its sort of, you need to use this kind of pear. It's like you've taken that and you've kind of just thrown it in the pan as well, just to add to that character with those berries. And again, you're getting sweet spices, but these are baking spices. Sweet clove, cinnamon, and this is like cinnamon powder, because I find cinnamon powder sweeter than actual cinnamon bark. Oh, and I'm even getting baked apple on the back end of this one. It's like a baked apple with cloves poked on the inside. And when you put it in the oven and you pull it out, you're getting that aroma of that appley, but again, a little bit of that spicy note to it. So much going on in this one. This is literally like a dessert, but on the nose. And this is exciting for me because we haven't even got yet into the palate of this whiskey. And behind all this, it's still carrying on further. And getting even hints of vanilla. And again, this is probably more to me like a vanilla cake, vanilla sponge, but I want to probably push this towards more like raisins or raisin bread. It's got this sweetness of a raisin, but then that sort of bready, sort of almost like a Victoria sponge cakiness to it. And there is a little bit of a soft heat again on the back end on the nose on this one, but to me this is like, again, candied ginger. It's soft, it's a little bit of heat, but again, the sweetness is quite dominant on the nose of this one. Really lovely nose. I am very impressed with this nose and this whiskey. Let's get into the palate next. Slanger. So overall on the actual palate, arrival on the palate for this whiskey is rather light medium. It doesn't have so much of texture as I originally had thought. But if you hold it on the palate, this is where it starts to develop and it starts to go into a more of a medium, a richer texture. For me, first notes up straight away on the palate is like raisin bread. It's like you're chewing raisin bread, and it's then accompanied by the sticky date pudding, and it goes straight into orchard fruits, goes into apples, but red apples. And it's like red apples accompanied by rhubarb, and rhubarb in season. That's actually, to me, it's like an apple and rhubarb dessert, accompanied with a nice layering of vanilla custard. God, just thinking of that right now is making me hungry. This is such a really nice whiskey. And then carrying on from that, you're getting red cranberries, red plums, and there is a slight dryness on the palate. It reminds me of I think it's a Lady Grey tea, which has got a little bit of a zing to it. It's got this interesting character because it doesn't really dry out the palate, but again, it goes back into red fruits and red currants. So it's very interesting how it developed. It went for that slight dry, zingy period, and then it went back into the red fruits, and the juiciness is holding itself quite well. And for me, I'm even finding, I don't know what it is, but it just reminds me of butter icing. When you're making cakes, that butter icing, that creaminess, vanilla character on it is just really, you can find that really easily on this whiskey. It's just a beautiful one on the palate as well. So far, really good on the nose and palate. Let's see what the finish has in store. Into the finish. So into the finish of this whiskey. The finish for this one has a medium length of the finish. It's not long, nor is it short. However, the flavor profiles I'm picking out on the finish of this whiskey reminds me of a sandwich I made recently where I combined raspberry and strawberry jam together. And it just worked really well. And it's like a combination of raspberry and strawberry jam together. You're getting these different characters and it's almost layering together. And to round this all out, you're getting a lovely sweetness of what reminds me of creme caramel. So it's a caramel flan, but when you make the topping, sometimes you might burn it ever so slightly. And I know when I was younger, we had one that was slightly burnt, so that tasted a little bit smoky. But it really is interesting because you get a smoky creme caramel character right on the end, which just holds it there, and it works really, really well. I'm really impressed with this whiskey. So in terms of actual score, whilst Mr. Bananas keeps staring that down, Mr. Bananas, you hold my glass. In terms of score for this whiskey, I'm going to give it let's see if I can find the score on this one. I'm going to give it a 90 out of 100. For me, I really, really enjoy this whiskey. See if we can hold it there. Hold your score. In terms of this one, this is a 90 out of 100. For me, I really enjoy this whiskey. The nose had so much going on, the palate as well. And this wasn't hot. It wasn't, uncomfortably, as some blends can be. It can be a little bit over the top. This one worked in harmony. The sherry characters really just played very well together. This is something that I definitely need to find a bottle because this is something I could sit with, whether it be, winter, summer, autumn, etc., whatever time of the year, and just sit there and enjoy. And if you are a big fan of sherried whiskies, I highly suggest finding this one. This is a very nice whiskey. There's a recommendation again. In terms of, is it value for money? I think so. £48, you can't go wrong for something sherried and balanced, because sometimes some sherry casks can be very sulfury. This one to me works very well. In terms of, does it need water? For me, that's a big no. I just love this whiskey the way it is, and I think Mr. Bernard is going to enjoy it as well. In terms of, does it need time? This is a yes and no. For me, if you want to keep those characters, I'd say no. But at the same time, if you want to leave it for a bit of time just to let it mellow out a little bit, then yes, give it a little bit of time. So it just depends on how you like to drink this whiskey. For me, it's straight, good to go. It doesn't need time. It's a beautiful whiskey and it just works very well for a blended whiskey. Especially, I don't know what whiskeys from Space Island they use, but for me, this one is a very nice whiskey. Actually, I don't know if it's Space Island, this one. But anyway, whatever it is, I really enjoyed it. So yeah, 90 out of 100. I'm impressed. I'm very impressed. So, if you guys have enjoyed the video, again, feel free to drop it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think if you tried the Lakes Sherry Cask, because this is definitely different from the one I tried way back, I think it was 2 years ago. So this is a very interesting one to try. But yeah, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you guys have enjoyed the video, drop it a thumbs up. Be sure to hit the subscribe button if you're new to stay up to date with all the latest videos we have here on the channel. If you have anything you'd like me to review, feel free to leave it down below in the comment section, because again, after this, I'll be doing some other whiskey reviews, taking your guys' suggestions and sort of going from there. So let me know your opinions down below in the comment section. If you have enjoyed, drop it a thumbs up, subscribe, see some of the videos on screen. And this has been me, Jason WhiskyWise, Mr. Bananas, and we'll catch you all for the next video. Slanger.